Hello, my name is Melissa Anderson, and I'm a faculty librarian here at Hannon Library at Southern Oregon University. Today, I'm going to talk to you about predatory journals. In this video, I'm going to be explaining what predatory journals are, and I'm also going to tell you why they're a problem for both students and researchers. I'm also going to help you avoid predatory journals by telling you some other places you can look for information, and I'm going to share with you some telltale signs of predatory journals so you'll be able to recognize them when they come up in your searches. Finally, I'm going to give you some places you can go for more information and to get help with this and other topics relating to research. First, I want to define what predatory journals actually are. A predatory journal is an online, open-access journal that claims to be a peer-reviewed academic publication. There are plenty of open-access journals that are legitimately peer-reviewed academic publications, but a predatory journal's purpose is just to trick researchers into paying to have their work published. There are legitimate journals that do charge author fees in order for publications to be made open access, but predatory journals are a little bit different. Their websites will tell you that they are peer-reviewed, but they skip the actual peer review process, and they also skip other quality controls, such as editorial processes, copy editing, those sorts of things. They will publish almost anything to make a profit. Their editorial boards are usually fake, and the articles they publish are not vetted for accuracy or the other criteria we expect in peer-reviewed publications. When you do come across a predatory journal when you're doing research, you really don't want to use it. The main reason is that predatory journals just aren't credible sources. Without that peer review process, you can't be sure that the information you read in a predatory journal is actually accurate, that it's based on real facts and real data. And if you use it in your own work, your claims and conclusions will also be based on bad evidence, and they will be unreliable too. Predatory journals also haven't gone through a thorough editorial review and often contain plagiarized content and citations that you cannot verify. And if you do use a predatory journal in your work, and you cite articles and share links from it, you will also sometimes lose access to those articles and to those links when the predatory journals get shut down, as they often do. And finally, maybe the most important thing is you yourself will lose credibility if you cite unreliable sources in your work. There are a lot of better information sources out there that you can use so that you can avoid predatory journals. The best place to go for accurate information is the library. Most predatory journals are not indexed in library databases, which means that the articles from predatory journals won't show up when you do searches in our databases or in our online catalog. Our library research guides will also point you towards verified indexes that have pretty strict quality controls that prevent predatory journal content from appearing in their search results. A good example of this is PubMed. The online library catalog will also direct you to journals available through the Directory of Open Access Journals. The Directory of Open Access Journals will point you towards open access content on the internet, but unlike predatory journals, the Directory of Open Access Journals screens out predatory publishers, so the articles from those journals do not show up in their search results. Identifying predatory journals is not impossible. There are some specific signs you should look for and some red flags you should be aware of. Author fees are one of the first signs that a journal might be predatory. Predatory journals are usually open access, which by itself is not a problem. However, they use their open access policy to justify author fees. Author fees, or article processing fees, are not by themselves proof that a journal is predatory, because there are some legitimate journals that do also charge author fees or article processing fees in order to make an article open access. Nevertheless, all predatory journals charge author fees to get published. Predatory journals may even offer authors the chance for expedited peer review, or so-called peer review, for additional fees. Let's take a look at one of the journals that does this. The International Journal of Social Science Research has many of the markers of a predatory journal. If you look at the top on their menu, they've got a section for publication fees, or APCs. When you go to that page, you can see that there's a whole calculator in order to figure out exactly how much the author has to pay for their article to get published. This is not proof by itself that this is a predatory journal, but it is a sign that it might be one. A rapid or expedited peer review process is also another sign that a journal might be predatory. The peer review process can be quite slow for legitimate academic journals, even notoriously slow. This is because the editor has to correspond with authors and peer reviewers, often through multiple versions of a single submission. This can take a long time. Predatory journals often offer a rapid peer review process that can't possibly allow for true review by experts in the field. Let's look at some examples of that. This is the journal we were just looking at, the International Journal of Social Science Research. If you look at their website, you can see that there's a call for papers for August 2026, and it says the submission deadline is August 30th. The website promises acceptance notification within 7 days and publication within 10 days. This is not at all normal for a legitimate academic journal. Let's look at another example. This journal is called the World Journal of Advanced Research and Reviews. You can see they also have a call for papers for their journal for August 2026, and it says that you can make submissions up to the 28th of August, and you'll have an editorial decision within 48 hours. This is not nearly long enough to go through a true peer review process. Vague journal titles and publication details are red flags for predatory journals. The titles of predatory journals are often very broad. This is so that they can accept submissions across many unrelated fields. Legitimate academic journals, on the other hand, often have very specific titles, such as the British Journal of Occupational Therapy or the Journal of Cosmology and Astroparticle Physics. But predatory journal titles are often so vague that you can imagine almost anything fitting within their scope or the topics that they will publish. Not all journals with broad titles are predatory, but if a journal has such a broad scope that almost anything fits, it's likely a predatory journal. Another red flag is publication information. Who publishes the journal, where they're located, that sort of thing. If it's hard to find on the website, that's another red flag. Let's look at some examples. We're back to the World Journal of Advanced Research and Reviews. Let's look at that title. The World Journal of Advanced Research and Reviews sounds like it could contain almost anything. And if we scroll down the page on their website, we can actually see that they claim to be a multidisciplinary journal with a broad scope. I'll say it's broad because if you start looking at it, it says they publish the biological sciences, lots and lots of different topics in medicine, also topics in physical, chemical sciences and engineering, and even social sciences and humanities. And under each one of these categories, there's many, many, many different topics that they publish. This means that they will publish just about anything. This is not at all normal for a legitimate academic journal. If we go to their Contact Us page, we also see that there's no information about a university that publishes this journal or a legitimate academic publisher. Instead, we have just a web address and an email, which is just editor@wjrr.com. Nothing else about the publisher, university affiliation, or anything else that you would expect to see on a legitimate academic journal website. This is not normal. Let's look at another example. Going back to the International Journal of Social Science Research that we looked at before, we look first at that title and say, wow, International Journal of Social Science Research sounds pretty broad. And if we actually read how they describe their scope, we can see that it is very broad. It says IJSSR is aimed at the fields of social sciences and humanities studies and covers vast areas of interest such as sociology, economics, political science, anthropology, education, psychology, law, etc. This is a very broad scope, and that's a red flag for a predatory journal. Another sign that you might be dealing with a predatory journal is if the published articles are of poor quality. Not all articles published in predatory journals are necessarily bad, because sometimes legitimate authors will fall for their tricks and submit valid work to them. However, since the journals lack a rigorous peer review or editorial process, Often the articles published in predatory journals contain spelling and grammar mistakes, strange wording, overly broad claims lacking evidence, and other problems not seen in legitimate academic journals. Let's take a look at an example. This journal is called the Research Journal of English Language and Literature, and it has many of the hallmarks of a predatory journal. Let's look at an article that is published in this journal. This article is entitled Feminist Approach in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice in Context to Elizabeth Bennet. That sounds like it might be something that would be published in an academic journal until you start reading the abstract. Once you start reading the abstract, you'll see that the sentences are not grammatical, there's strange wording and other things that just don't seem like hallmarks of a legitimate academic journal. If you actually read the article itself, it's full of really broad claims, and many of the claims don't have any citations or evidence that matches what they're claiming. These are all signs that this journal article has not gone through a rigorous peer review process, and probably the journal is predatory. One of the red flags to look for when you're trying to determine if the journal you found is predatory is whether or not the website looks professional. Not all legitimate academic journals have state-of-the-art websites, but they are usually clean and professional looking. Predatory journals, on the other hand, often have websites that are decades behind in design style and standards. They are frequently not secure. They may have prominent errors and strange phrasing on their homepages, and they overall just look dubious. Some have flashing lights and ads which contribute to the unprofessional look. Legitimate journal websites look much more professional. Let's compare. This is the website for a journal called 19th Century Literature. You can see on the homepage right away up in the left-hand corner, it says it's published by the University of California Press, which is a very well-respected academic press. The homepage is pretty simple, but it's also very clean and easy to read and easy to navigate. The information about the journal and their scope is very clearly placed on the homepage where you can find it and read it and understand it. We've got information about recent articles that are published and all kinds of other information that you would need to know to learn more about this journal. It's simple but professional. Let's compare it to another journal. We visited this website before. This is the website for the Research Journal of English Language and Literature. This website, in contrast to the last one, does not have that same professional look. The style of the website is about Web 1.0. It's at least 20 years out of date. We've got this sort of scrolling information that nobody is using on their websites anymore. We've got some flashing signs. And if we scroll down the page, we'll see that there are ads for PayPal, ways that you can pay your author fees using PayPal, and overall just a general unprofessional look. Let's look at another one. This is the website. It's actually a portal to several different journals called the International Journals of Multidimensional Research. That's just exactly the same kind of vague name that should be sort of a tip-off already that this might be a predatory website and predatory journals. We also see those flashing lights. We see kind of blurry images on this homepage. We see a very prominent ad for PayPal and photos that look like your sort of generic stock photos. This is not a professional looking website, and it should be a tip-off that this is likely a predatory site. If you've made it this far, you've learned a lot about how to spot predatory journals and why you don't want to use articles from predatory journals in your research. I'm now going to give you some tips for how to get help finding good research resources. The best thing you can do for yourself when you're trying to start a research project or find good resources for research is to ask a librarian. There are some websites that frequently update lists of journals with potentially predatory practices. One of these is called Beall's List, and it's pretty good, but not all predatory journals are on the list, and the list goes out of date quite quickly. You can also ask AI tools to help you identify red flags on a potentially predatory journal website, but be careful, because AI will also include content from predatory journals if you ask it to help you find research resources. If you have doubts about something you found, you can ask one of the librarians at Hannon Library for help. You can stop by the Research Help Desk to ask questions, or use the email or chat links on our library website to send us a link to what you found and ask our opinion of it. If you are having trouble finding research, a librarian can help you use our library catalog, databases, and other reliable research resources. We're glad to help you, so please do stop by the Research Help Desk or send us an email or chat via our website. On the library website, all of the chat features are on the left-hand side. You can ask for help to send an email or chat with a librarian, or if you just have a technology question, you can chat with our Tech Help Desk. Thank you for watching this Hannon Library video on predatory journals. If you have any questions about the content of this video, you can email them to me at andersm18@sou.edu. I'd like to point out that the presentation template used in this video was created by SlidesGo, including icons by Flaticon and infographics and images by Freepik. Thank you!